Right.
We rented in Amazon in the late 70s, and you come to Bridgehampton, you could park anywhere you wanted to park.
right.
And then we sold the house and came back about 5 years after we sold the house, and we were floored.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nobody on the street in 1979.
Yep. No, that's right. My folks got there, they built the house. This would have been probably 87 or 88. And everybody they knew tried to tell them not to. They said, why would you buy? I mean, the property that they got was like right after the train tracks. And Bridgehampton at the time was not the thing. So everybody said, what are you doing? And boy, were they wrong. I mean, he saw the potential of it, I think. But it really is amazing how much it changed. I was born in 81, so I don't have the 70s as a reference. But for anybody that I know that's been here that long, it's a night and day kind of difference. Night and day kind of difference.
I remember in August, it would be caravans of potato trucks.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's right.
Caravans.
Right. Yeah. I think the days of potato farming are probably pretty long gone at this point. But yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbos. Shabbos Camp Kevin.
Shabbos.
All right. So we're going to start our service on page 186. Page 186. Modani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Modani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Modani We're on page 192, Matovu. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. We'll turn now to page 194. We'll read together in Hebrew at the very top of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar et ha'adam bechokma barav nekabim nekabim chalulim chalulim chalui biyadua lifnei chisei chavodecha she'im yipatech echad mehem o yisatem echad mehem אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. On page 196. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורי. אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורי. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehora tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehorai. Elohai neshama shenatata bi. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai, asher bi'ado nefesh kol chai, ve'ruach kol b'saish. We're on page 198, and we'll rise in body or spirit. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan osach biyamina, la'afid ben yom u'ben layla. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeh afirim. Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam rokach haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam hamechid mitzadei kafer. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam mabish harulim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam hanoten la'ay koach. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam hamavir shina einai u'tima me'al ha'pamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam sha'asani b'tzelem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam sha'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam sha'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam Ozer Israel v'Yura. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim melech haolam Ozer Israel v'Tifara. Please be seated. We're now on page 204. We'll read together in Hebrew at the very top and then the English at the bottom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. O Adonai our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah l'amo Yisrael. We're now on page 206. Elu devarim she'in lahem shiur, shalom chabrotehem ba'olam hazeh, v'akeret kayemet lo le'olam haba, ve'elu hem kibud alayim ugmilut chasadim, ve'hashkavat beit hamidrash shacharit ve'aravit, ve'achnasat orchim u'vikor cholim, V'achnasat kala yatamet v'yun tefila, ve'avat shalom ben adam ha'chavero, ve'talmud Torah keneged hu. Now rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 212 for the opening blessing of Pesukei Dezimra. Baruch she'amar v'hayah Baruch hu. Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer Ve'Yoser, Baruch Oseh U'Mekayem, Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz, Baruch Merachem Al Habriot, Baruch Meshalem Sachar Tov L'Re'ah, Baruch Alad Ve'Kayam Lanetzach, Baruch Bodeh U'Matzil, Baruch Shemo, Bishpachot u'Bizmirot Megadelcha, U'Nshabechecha Nefercha V'Nazkir Shimcha V'Nalichecha, Malkeinu Eloheinu, Yachid Chei HaOlamim, Melech Meshubach, U'Po'ar Adei Shemo HaGadol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Melech Mehulal V'Tishpachot. Please be seated. We're on page 214. Is more Shirley Shabbat. Tov le'odov Adonai. Tov le'odov Adonai. U'letzamer le'shimcha elyon. Tov le'odov Adonai. Lehagid baboker שימחני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רבה. מגדו מעשיך ים, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מגדו מעשיך ים, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מעשיך ים, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יעללוך, עוד יעללוך. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יעללוך, עוד יעללוך. Selah. Can you sound the right now? ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה, הללויה, הללויה. Page 218. Hallelujah, 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 el bekodsho, hallelujah, ki auzo, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, benever bechinor, hallelujah, betoku machor. Hallelujah, minim berugal. Hallelujah, 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 betzil tzalei shama, hallelujah, betzil tzalei truah. Olam Shabbat, Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah. Nishmat kol chai, tevarech et shifar Adonai Eloheinu. You sound on page 219. We're now on page 220 at the very top. Ilu finu male shirakaya, Ushonenu rina kamot gala, Vesiptotenu shema kemarkevei rakia, Veinenu meirot kashemesh v'chayareach, Ve'yadenu prusot kenishrei shamayim, Ve'ragleinu kalot kayalot, Ein anachnu maspikim lehodot lecha, Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Please sadly live our lives. We're now on page 222, and second paragraph down from the top. Shot Kenad Marot Vekadoshemo Vekaturanu Tzadikim Adonai Layesharim Nala Teila Befi Yesharim Tinitata Divrei Tzadikim Titbarach Ubelshon Chasidim Titromam Bekerev Kedoshim Titkadash Uvma Kehalot Rivevotam Chabei Israel every night but Shimcha Malkeinu Bechol Dor Vador Yababai Yababai Bye 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 Yababai Yababai Bye 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 Yababai Bye 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 We'll now rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 223 for the concluding blessing of Pezukei de Zimra, and then remain standing through the Chatzi Kaddish and the Baruch Hu on the next two pages. Yishtabach Shimcha Alad Malkeinu Ahel HaMelech HaGadol VaHaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Lecha Na'e Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu Shir Shvacha Levazimra Uzumemshala Netzach Gedula U'Gvura Tila V'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot Ve'Hodaot Me'ata Ve'Adonai Baruch Atah Adonai El Melech Gadol V'Tishpachot El HaHodaot Adonai Niflaot Hamocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech Elokei HaOlamim Yitkadal V'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbai Yamad Yivrach Yerutei V'Yamlich Malchutei V'chai Echonu Yom Echonu Chai Dechol Beit Yisrael V'Hagala U'Bizman Karim V'Yimeru Amen Shmei Rabbav Le'olam Le'omei Almayah Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitbar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh V'Yitadar V'Yit'aleh V'Yithalal Shemei Dekucha Leila Mikol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata D'Amirat Be'alma V'Yimeru Amen Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Amen. Please be seated. We're now on page 228. We'll read together in English at the bottom of the page, and then the 3 lines in Hebrew just above, beginning with Or Chadash. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created, may they glorify. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Or Chadash al Zion Tahir. Or Chadash al Zion Tahir. V'nizkech kulanu me'era le'oru. V'nizkech kulanu me'era le'oru. Yadadai bim bim bam, yadadai bim bam, yadadai bim bim bam, yadadai. Yadadai bim bim bam, yadadai bim bam, yadadai bim bim bam, yadadai Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot. We're now on page 230. We'll start by reading English together at the top of the page and the Hebrew at the bottom. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears, whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life, be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Ve'ha'er eineinu leToratecha ve'na'abei libeinu le'mitzvotecha ve'yacher le'evayinu le'ahava u'liyirah et shemecha ve'lo nebosh ve'lo nikaleh ve'lo nikashel le'olam va'ed ki reshem kodechecha hagadol v'hanora v'atachnu nagila v'nismecha v'yeshuatecha ve'havienu le'shalom ve'arba kanpot haaretz ve'tolicheinu kol mimiyut le'artzeinu ki el poel yeshuot ata ubanu b'charta ve'keratanu le'shimcha hagadol selah b'emet להודות לך לכתך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל מאהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. We're on page 234. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לתותחות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Page 236. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף כפיל וחלק, והיה לכם לציצית, ראיתם אותו, וזכרתם מכל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם מאחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. On page 238, the 4 lines up from the bottom third in Hebrew. תהילות לליון ברוך ומבורך משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך נושיע ושמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא יאי לי 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 שירה חדשה שיפו גאולים לשמחה שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד צור ישראל תקומה בעזרת ישראל ופדי חילומך יהודה וישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל. Now rise in body or spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 242. From that point on, we'll continue silently as always. Please go at your own pace, and you're finished. If you're standing, you may be seated. Adonai sevatai tiftachu fi tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. still davening your silent Amidah, please continue, and you can always catch up with us. Those that are finished, we're going to turn to page 324, and again, we'll rise in body or spirit for the repetition of the Amidah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotzeinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevii Gula Libnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahvah, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Atarav Lehoshia, Morid Hatam, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha B'Gevurot, Umidom Elav, Melech Memit Umechayem, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman ata l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaMetim. Page 326. Mekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, keshem shemapishim oto bishmimaro, kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, v'karaz el zeh ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, melech kol haaretz kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Madir, Shimecha b'chol haaretz, Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu Malkeinu, hu Moshienu, lehu Yashmienu, berachamav le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, le'dor vador. Hallelujah. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador nagid God lecha. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador. Le'dor vador nagid God lecha, u'lenetzach netzachim kedushatcha na'akdish, kedushatcha na'akdish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yavush, le'olam le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ahel HaKadosh. Please be seated. We're now on the top of page 329. Yismechu v'malekutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malekutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadshe Shvi Shabbat, Kulam Yismehu v'yitlangu b'tuvecha Shabbat, Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat, v'hashvi'i ratzita bo, Ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, chemnat yamim, oto kerata Shabbat, yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Zecher Lemase Bereshit Shabbat Yismechu V'Malechutecha Shomrei Shabbat Vekorei Oneg Shabbat Eloheinu Eloi Avotenu V'Imotenu Ritzei B'Imnuchateinu Kadishenu B'Mitzvotecha V'ten Chelkeinu B'Toratecha Zahabeinu Mituvecha V'Samnecheinu B'Shuatecha V'Taher Libeinu Le'ovdecha Be'emet V'Hanchileinu Adonai Eloheinu Ayin 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 B'Ahava Ratzon Shabbat Kodecha Vaynu Chupa Yisrael Mekadshe Shemecha Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. We'll read now on page 330 together in English, middle of the page. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough health to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your blessing. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. Baruch Atah Adonai, Shodcha Levatcha B'Ranavon. We're now on page 332, beginning at the very bottom of the page. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, Modim Anachnu. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, Modim Anachnu. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. Modim Anachnu. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared. For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who live so that others might live in dignity and freedom. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Baruch Atah Adonai Hatov Shimcha Ulechanai Leodot. We're now on page 334. Zim Shalom Tova Ubracha Chen V'Chesed Berachamim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha Orcheinu Yotzreinu Kulanu Kechad Be'or Panecha Be'or Panecha Natata Lanu Adonai Eloheinu Sim Shalom Tova Ubracha Ein V'Chesed Berachamim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Amecha Torah Chaim Ve'ahavat Chesed Mutzedaka Uracha Berachamim Mechaim B'Shalom Sim Shalom Tova chesed verachamim verachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha ve'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol eitu vechol shah bishlomecha sim shalom tova ubracha chesed verachamim verachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha Baruch atah Adonai Berech et Amo Yisrael b'shalom. Let's read together on the top of page 337. Prayer is not purely an act. All things pray, and all things pour forth their souls. The heavens pray, the earth prays, every creature and every living thing. In all life there is longing. Creation is itself but a longing, a kind of prayer to the Almighty. What are the clouds, the rising and the setting of the sun, the soft radiance of the moon and the gentleness of the night? What are the flashes of the human mind and the storms of the human heart? They are all prayers, the wordless outpouring of boundless longing for God. Oseh shalom bimroha, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hey, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So this morning we're going to read from Parshat Shoftim, and just to say that when we have our Women's Torah commentary discussions, usually on those Shabbats, I give sort of more of a mini drash and a little bit more of an overview, just so that we make sure that I don't step on the toes of our facilitator and teacher at 12 o'clock. But I did want to focus a little bit on one particular idea. And Shoftim is a remarkable parsha. It contains a lot of pieces that, as I said last night, become bigger principles in Jewish thought and rabbinic thought in particular. And the whole initial section of the parsha, and if you're, give page numbers now, if you're in the women's commentary, it's 1143 in the women's commentary, and it's 1294 in the Plav Chumash. So again, 1143 in women's commentary, 1293 in the Plav Chumash, which is the darker colored option. And one of the, just to highlight, if you happen to have the women's commentary in front of you, one of the great things about it is its summary page on 1142, you'll see, in which it really breaks down in sort of major headings, subheadings, everything that's really taking place here. And if you're looking at it, you'll see that the whole first section is about the judicial system as a whole, but also as a, sort of instruction as to what kinds of people are needed for the various roles that are necessary to lead the people. In this place in the Torah, they're really thinking again about what will happen once they enter the land of Israel. But we already know that there is already a structure in place that even as the Israelites are wandering in the desert, that there's a tremendous amount of need for delineation of role, for principled actors, for a connection ultimately to a larger system of ethical behavior. And all of these things play out in this section, in which we really get a deep dive into, yes, the Shoftim, the judges themselves, but also to kings, also to the priesthood, and also ultimately speaking to the prophets. And we get this whole sort of idea that in order for anyone to function in these roles, they're not simply titles. It's not simply something that you are bestowed, but something that requires a tremendous amount of internal work in order to reach a certain kind of ethical baseline, a principled level. So the one part that I wanted to just talk a little bit about this morning is the idea of witnessing. We have in a description here a little bit further into the portion. Let me just find where I lost here. So this relates to what is a tough conversation, certainly, but in essence, a conversation around the death penalty. And the death penalty in this particular case related to acts of idolatry, and idolatry considered to be of the three worst things you can do. Idolatry is at the very top of the list, so to speak, or in that top echelon. And so the requirement for determining whether a person has actually done something so terrible that they deserve a corporal punishment, you need witnesses. And in our tradition, you cannot have a single witness, that the mandatory minimum is two, and that in certain circumstances, as we learn here, we can have more than two witnesses. But interestingly enough, in that circumstance, if even one of the witnesses of, let's say, the three is proven to be a dishonest witness, the witnessing of all three of them is invalidated. So even in a circumstance where two out of the three are legit, all it takes is one person to ultimately overturn the validity of whatever it is that is being witnessed to. And I think there is something very powerful in that teaching, if we think about it, and we think about it on a societal level, that even those of us, right, who try to live on a daily basis, an ethical life, a moral life, a life in which we hold truth up to be a value that we hold sacred, in which we at least try as best as we can to not be duplicitous, to not be untruthful in our words. But even amongst us, it's more than just what individuals do or even small groups. It becomes a societal issue at a certain point, that it doesn't have to be a majority is right and a minority is wrong or vice versa. If there is even a little bit of a consideration of a unworthy witness, right? Somebody who is speaking without truth, who is bending, in particular, bending truth to serve personal needs. It is enough to overtake the entire system. It invalidates basically the entire operation. And I think that we can understand we are living in a world, increasingly so, in which truth is a debatable fact, which is absurd to say. It's an oxymoron. But inevitably, we find ourselves in these situations in which it's not just a matter of whether 95% of the world feels a certain kind of way. If 5% is purposely untruthful, purposely for their own benefit, it's enough to ultimately affect the entire operation itself. And I want to emphasize, because this is something that maybe not everybody is familiar with, but if you have your Sidurim handy and your prayer books handy, and you can go, we'll go to the earliest iteration of it in our prayer book on page 10. But if you go to the Shema, right, our sort of one of our core central prayers, and you look at the way that it was designed in our prayer book in Mishkan Tefillah was to take the actual Torah text itself, where it comes from, so that it looks like what a Torah would look like if you were looking at it. And you'll notice it mentions this in the liner notes on the bottom of page 11. But you'll notice that the ayin at the end of the first word Shema and the dalet at the end of the last word echad, if you put these two letters together, it spells the word in Hebrew aid. Aid is the word for witness. And it means that in actual fact, what we are doing when we say the Shema is we are proclaiming that we are witnesses to God's godliness, right, to God's existence. In effect, every time we say the Shema, we're reminding ourselves of how important it is in our life to be legitimate witness. Right, to be a witness of, not just in the case of God, but of the actions that we take as human beings in God's name. All of the stuff that we read at the beginning of this portion, everything, really, again, from the questions around the judges, to the priests, to the prophets who don't yet even really exist in this case, even considering Moshe a prophet, but this is really talking about into the future. Right, in every one of these circumstances, there is an absolute need to understand the significance and the importance of being a witness, being an aid. And for those of you that have been married or have been a witness, for example, on a ketubah, I often explain to wedding couples that they don't even need me to be present, right? The rabbi, I can serve as a witness, but my witnessing is actually not a necessity. What we need really are the two adim. We need the two people who are willing to stand up and to say that these two people want to be married, they're not being forced into this, that they truly believe that this is a loving couple. And I try to impart, because a lot of times, couples that I work with these days, they find a witness and it's just sort of like a friend of theirs, and they kind of give it out as something to give them to make them feel happy or whatever it might be. So I have to really bring it into their conception of what it is that they're actually doing. And it's important when I ask the Adim what it is that they are witnessing, what it is that they are comfortable saying with absolute certainty or as much as they are capable of, it changes the whole energy in the room. And I think that if we really think about ourselves in our daily lives, working and acting and living our lives, in essence, as witnesses, with this kind of power and significance and import, I think it will change our behavior for the better. And I think that all of us have something to learn from this experience and really to consider where we fit into this. I hope that none of us should ever be put in a position of being a witness for the purposes of capital punishment. But in any circumstance where you are called to be a truthful actor in a conversation, to treat it with the seriousness with which the Torah treats it this morning. So with that, I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and we're going to turn back to our Sidurim for a moment as we begin Seder Kriyat Torah on page 362. I'll invite us to rise in body or in spirit. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai v'ein kemasecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imach le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz lamo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, Abba harachamim, eitiv ha'bertzoncha, et Zion, tipei kol Yerushalayim, ki becha levad v'tachnu, melech el v'nisa, Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udevar Adonai v'Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael v'kdushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adoneinu Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai Tioner Shemo Yachtav. Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagedura V'Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz Ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha Amid Na'aseh Lechol Erosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Romemu Adonai Elohecha ve'ishtachavu le'har kodsho. Okay, please be seated. Larry, would you like an aliyah? Okay, you can do it from there, and if it's helpful, we got a big print version right here. And can somebody just remind everybody the Women's Prayer Commentary page? I just closed it by accident. 1142. 1142, does that sound right? Women's Prayer Commentary. And in the Cloud Chumash, we're starting at 1294. And Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18. We're reading from the first aliyah this morning. This is space to keep coming. And Larry Yamod, your Hebrew name? Yosef Lev ben Moshe Israel Aliyah Harishona. Baruch Hanam Barach Le'olam Va'ed. Amen. Shofetim v'shotrim titen lecha bechol sharecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha lishvatecha v'shafetu et ha'am mishpat tzedek lo tateh mishpat Lo takir panim velo tikach shochad ki hashochad יעבר עיני חכמים, ויסלח דברי צדיקים. צדק צדק תרדוף, למען תחיה, וירשת את הארץ, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תיטע לך אשרה כל עץ אצל מזבח אדוני אלוהיך אשר תעשה לך. לא תקים לך לא תקים לך מצבה אשר שונא אדוני אלוהיך. לא תזבח לאדוני אלוהיך שור ושם, אשר יבומום כל דבר רע, כי תועבת אדוני אלוהיך הוא. כי מצא בקרבך באחד שעריך, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך, איש או אישה, אשר יעשה את הרע בעיני אדוני אלוהיך לעבור בריתו, וילך ויעבוד אלוהים אחרים, וישתחו להם, ולשמש או לירח, או לכל צבא השמיים אשר לא ציפיתי. והוגד לך ושמעתם, ודרשת היטב, והנה אמת נכון הדבר, נעשתה התועבה הזאת בישראל, והוצאת את האיש ההוא, את האישה ההיא, אשר עשו את הדבר הרע הזה אל שעריך, את האיש או את האישה, וסקלתם באבנים ומתו. על פי שניים עדים, או 3 עדים, יומת המת, לא יומת על פי עד אחד. יד העדים תהיו בו בראשונה להמיתו, ביד כל העם באחרונה, וביערת הרע מקרבך, כי יפלא ממך דבר למשפט, בין דם לדם, בין דין לדין, ובין נגע לנגע, דברי ריבות בשעריך. וקמת ועלית אל המקום אשר יבחר אדוני אלוהיך בו, ובאת אל הכהנים הלוויים ואל השופט אשר יהיה בימים ההם, ודרשת והגידו לך את דבר המשפט ועשית על פי הדבר אשר יגידו לך מן המקום ההוא אשר יבחר אדוני ושמרת לעשות ככל אשר יורוך על פי התורה אשר יורוך על המשפט אשר יאמרו לך תעשה לא תסור מן הדבר אשר יגידו לך ימין ושמאל והאיש אשר יעשה בזדון לבלתי שמע אל הכהן העומד לשרת שם את אדוני אלוהיך או אל השופט ומאת האיש ההוא וביארת הרע מישראל וכל העם ישמעו ויראו ולא יזידון. Amen. Yasher Koach, Larry. Thank you for doing us the honor.
That is a happy portion.
I don't think I was thinking quite so good this morning. But it covers a lot.
You got it, yeah.
No, it's okay. We're going to turn back to our Sidurim, our prayer books, to offer our Misha Barak for this morning on page 371. Misha Barak Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et hacholim ha'elu. And this morning we'll begin by thinking of Spencer Levy, Aaron Zweig, Michael Klinghoffer, Amy Cass, Steve Levine, Rivka bat Rachel, Leah bat Naomi, Gedalia ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devora bat Francis, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Paul bat Esther, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Rose Spicer, Dina bat Chana, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klopman, Michoel ben Chananya, Bensi Tepper, Lorraine Davis, Mazel bat Adele, Erwin Levin, Chana bat Miriam, Moshe ben Ephraim Fischel, Devorah bat Sima, Moshe Eliezer ben Yakutiel, Judy Yang, Jeffrey Miller, Sandy Greenwald, Pat Skionis, Peter Parcher, Jeannie, Eva, Leah, and Pam Levinson, Jody Bernstein, Matthew Agarwal, Leslie Schifrin, Charlie Zweig, Michael Rosenblatt, August Hill, Trish Schapp, Jerry Leibowitz, Rivka bat Yehuda Vabela, Talia bat Sandra, and Esther bat Sarfa. In addition to the names we just read, if there's anyone with us this morning who'd like to add names, and of course to invite our friends watching at home to add names as well.
Judith Letterman. Michael Ballester, Rob Pied, Harav Yeshayahu, Obadia Ben Shlomo, Harav Avido, Moshe Ben China, Achazan Ismail Rafu, Harav Miriam Yair Chaya Batsara, Harav Benjamin Ben Giraz, Nachshon, Dod Ben Yair Ben Yair, Gerard Levy, Theodore Eastwick, Robert Brooks, Harry Cohn, and Moshe Al-Shel.
We'll come back to you in one second, Mary.
Kathy D'Amico.
Okay, Marcia, go ahead.
Roger Santowski, Diane Schwartz, Mary Moore, Erica Heck, Don Stapleton, Vivian Trevor, Ashley and Maddie, Meredith Berger, Lenore Parker, and Larry Justin.
הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם, להחלימם ולרפאותם, לחזקם וישלח להם מהרה רפואה. רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף. השתא בגלה זמן קריב ונאמר amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are suffering. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say together. Amen. El na refana la, el na refana la, el na refana la, refua shelema. El na refana lo, el na refana lo, el na refana lo. Will now rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 370 at the bottom of the page, lift and dress the Torah. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Okay, please be seated. Turn now to the Haftarah for this morning. If you have a cloud chumash in front of you, it won't be in the women's commentary, so if you have a women's commentary for Torah and you want to grab the cloud chumash, you're welcome to. And we're going to be on page 1316. 1316. For those following at home, you're looking for Isaiah chapter 51, verse 12 to chapter 52, verse 12. And this, of course, being the fourth of the 7 Haftarot of consolation, the Haftarahs that we read between the end of Tisha B'Av and the beginning of the high holiday season. So we'll see how consoled we feel when we're finished reading it. But again, beginning on page 1316 in just a moment. And first, I'll offer the blessing before. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abocher b'torah u'b'Moshe avdo u'b'Yisrael amo v'nvi'eh ha'emet b'tzedek. I am the one who comforts you. What is wrong with you that you are afraid of mortals, of human beings who become like grass, that you forget the eternal your maker who spread out the heavens and established the earth? All day long you are in terror of the fury of an oppressor intent on your destruction. Yet where is the oppressor's fury? Neither death nor the grave for you who bend low. You shall be free and lack nothing. For I am the eternal your God. I stir up the sea and make its waves roar. God of heaven's hosts by name, I have put my words in your mouth and sheltered you with my hand. I spread out the heavens and established the earth. I say to Zion, you are my people. Rouse yourself, rise up, Yerushalayim. You have drunk from the Eternal's hand the cup of wrath and drained to the dregs the bowl that made you stagger. She has none to guide her. Of all her children she bore, none to take her by the hand of all the children that she raised. These two things have befallen you, devastation, destruction. Who will console you? Famine and sword, who can comfort you? On every street corner, your children lie senseless like antelopes in a net, flooded with the wrath of the eternal, your God's rebuke. Therefore, listen to this, you who are afflicted, drunk, but not with wine. Thus says the Eternal One, your sovereign, your God who defends you. I am taking from your hand the cup of staggering. No more shall you drink from the bowl of my wrath. I will put it into the hands of your tormentors, those who said, lie down for us to trample you, so that you made your backs like the ground, like a street for passersby. Awake, awake, clothe yourself in strength, O Zion. Array yourself in robes of splendor, O holy city of Yerushalayim. Never again shall the uncircumcised and impure enter you. Shake off the dust and rise up, captive Yerushalayim. Strip the chain off your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For thus says the Eternal One, as you were sold for nothing, so you shall be redeemed without money. For thus says the eternal God, long ago my people went down to dwell in Egypt, and later Assyria oppressed them without cause. And now then, says the eternal one, what do I find here? My people are carried off for nothing. Their captors howl. My name is reviled continually all through the day. Be sure then, my people shall learn my name. Be sure on that day they shall learn that I am the one who speaks. Here I am. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the herald who brings good tidings, who proclaims peace, the messenger of good tidings who proclaims deliverance, who says that Zion, your God, reigns. Listen, your sentinels raise their voices. Together they shout for joy. For with their own eyes, they see the return of God to Zion. Together break out in paean of praiseful joy, you ruin of Jerusalem. The Eternal comforts your people and redeems Jerusalem. The Eternal has bared the holy arm in the sight of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of Adonai. Depart, depart, go out from here. Touch nothing impure, go out from her midst. Purify yourselves, you bearers of the vessels of the Eternal. But you shall not go out in haste or leave in flight, for the Eternal will go before you. The God of Israel will be your rear guard. And we'll return now to our prayer books, page 372 at the very bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zur kol haolamim, tzadik bechol hadovrot, ha'el ha'neman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'mdaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah v'anemim b'yom ha'shabbat hazeh, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Now turn to page 376 at the bottom of the page to offer our prayer for our country. We'll join together. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Together we say, Amen. Amen. Prayer for the state of Israel, page 377. Avinu shebashamayim tzur Yisrael v'goalo, barech et medinat Yisrael, reshit smichat gulatenu. Again aleha be'evrat chastecha, ufros aleha sukat shlomecha. Ushlach orcha v'amimcha l'rasheha, sareha v'yoatzeha. ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר Amen. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there, and together we say, Amen. Amen. Now rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 371 for the conclusion of the Torah service. Yeah, hallelujah, Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levato, hodu al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem kerem li'amo, tehila lechol chasidav, libnei Yisrael am kerobo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekachov natati lachem torati al chazotu. Et chaim hi lamachasikim ba v'tomcheha meushar terachem hadarchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva we turn to page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latet tefillah liotzer reshit shelo asanu kigoyei haratzon velo samadu kemishpechot ha'adama shelo samachachenu kahem vegor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim mishtachavim u'mavim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch Hu. Page 591. V'nehemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz vayom lahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo Now invite those in mourning, those observing yard site to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We begin by thinking of those who passed in our community in recent months. Martin Blake, Lynn Cowan, Faith Diskin, Linda Denoff, Arlene Eber, Jay Fagan, Ellen Frank, Chaim Bear Greenwald, Gerald Hirsch, Mark Joseph, Jane Beard Cass, Gertrude Katz, Buddy Kossoff, Elaine Krotman, Emmanuel Kiprios, Leo Leibowitz, William Lippman, Sandra Tromberg Luongo, Norma Paulsek, David Sent, Anita Sheldon, Alan Silver, Larry Wartor, Peter Weinstein, and Matthew Adam Zimmer. We also mark the yard sites that occurred during the last week for Francis Arowich, Joseph Auerbach, Ruben Becker, Doris Blasenheim, Rose Blutt, Herman Brown, Ruth Brown, Frank Decker, Samuel Diner, Jesse Epstein, Irving Fisher, Henry Friedlander, Irving Ginsberg, Hazel Greenspan, Herman Halpern, Harold Heyman, Lois Nash Cowder, Leo Kelmanson, Ruth Kelmanson, Jack Kurtzman, Romana Kopovich, Lawrence Kopp, Lillian Levitt, Sarah Meyer, Nancy Nagel, Madge Judith Parcher, Seki Rice, Samuel Meyer Shockett, Morris Tanzer, Irma Tyson, Benjamin Weiss, and Betsy Wolf. Is there anyone else this morning that's saying Kosh for somebody didn't mention?
Barbara Schwartz and Steve Haley.
Karina Ziegelman Grubner is yours.
And invite those who choose to rise in body or spirit as the mourners join with me on page 590. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma v'yibrach yiratei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei v'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru, amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah levarach le'alam u'le'almei amayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudsha v'richu le'elah mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalom arabah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'rama v'hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Zichronam libracha, may every one of their memories be for us. Please be seated, and again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone. A few of our important announcements, most important of which to join us for Torah study on Zoom at 12 o'clock, and our first Shabbat of the month dedicated to studying Torah using the Torah Women's Commentary. And this week and this month, we will be led by Emily Kutash. So we'll have a great discussion. There's plenty of time for everybody here to get home and get in front of their computers by 12 o'clock. And we're really looking forward to that opportunity to learn. A reminder that Monday being Labor Day, the office will be closed, and all programs. I think Minna Mitzvah is also not meeting, right? Marsha? Right.
Oh, yeah,
No.
they
Okay.
take any holiday.
That's fair enough. So my class, it's normally on Mondays, will be moved to Friday at 12 o'clock this week. A reminder also that this week on the 8th, I believe it is, you can join me for a docent-led tour of the Montauk Lighthouse beginning at 10:30. And for those that choose to follow by a light lunch at George's Lighthouse Cafe afterwards, or, Marcia said, might find somewhere else in Montauk is perfectly acceptable to go and eat. Reminder also that a week from tomorrow, September 11th, we are looking forward to having our booth back at the Sag Harbor Harbor Fest for the first time in many years. That will run from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And we, of course, are always looking for volunteers, people that can help us by spending a little time in the booth and talking about why you love our temple to people who may be walking by. And you can also visit Howard at the food pantry spot, I imagine, you know.
Or you come on Saturday, when I'll be-
Or you can do that too after services. You can go on, and by all means, go on Saturday as well.
This Sunday.
Yeah. Also a reminder, later this month, we have a tour of the Halleckville Museum and Farm. We have another film shul course, this one, Gangsters, Gunuffs, and Goons, should be very good. And a last minute edition, which is a virtual tour live from Tel Aviv, from the Anu Museum, as it's now called, Museum of the Jewish People. It used to be called the Museum of the Diaspora. And they have a special exhibit that I believe is oriented around high holiday observances around the world. So last time we did something with them, it was really great. And going there in person is actually really amazing because, you know, for those that remember the original building and what it is now, it's really quite a remarkable thing. And there's something also across the street that I think was just recently, but I'm looking at Miriam because she's our Israeli in the room.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I was in the old one many years.
Many years ago, right.
The new one fairly recently.
Yeah,
They kept some of the old.
Some of the old stuff that I remember from when I was a kid for sure is there. But actually, one of the most interesting things is they have dioramas of synagogues, famous synagogues from around the world. So you can go and see sort of miniaturized versions of all of these things. And it's really cool, especially if you've been lucky enough in your life to travel and to see different shuls and then to be familiar with shuls in the States. And you see how many of them are actually callbacks to, you know, the shuls that they grew up with or the ones that they're from. There's one from Hungary that's like particularly interesting, and it's this all wood thing, and it looks like, you know, ultra modern, and yet it's you know, hundreds of years old, doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But in any case, will be a great opportunity. And a reminder again that the holiday season, in essence, begins with Slichot. If you're a Sephardi, you've already begun. If you're Ashkenazi, it's a little bit to wait on September 17th. And what we're going to do this year is it's going to be Zoom only. But there's a reason behind it, is that I'm calling it Slichot from around the world. And it means because I'll be able to pull in some video from a lot of different ways in which Slichot is observed. And we haven't talked to Cantor Kevin yet, but it turns out that he was a soloist in the great synagogue in Yerushalayim during the time in Israel. And if you have the lucky occasion, should you be in Israel during Slichot, and you can go to the great synagogue and you can hear it, it's one of the most unique experiences I think I've had. But Slichot is one of these great examples of whenever we tend to think about Jewish life as this sort of singular monolithic entity. Sukkot is the exact opposite of that, right? Depending on where you come from, what your traditions are, how you practice, what the melodies are that you grew up with, what the prevailing cultures were of where the Jews were living that you came from, you get so many variations, so many beautiful piyutim, so many beautiful melodies. It's really very stirring. So I'm going to try my best using, you know, the virtual tools allowed to us to do something good. And also, I know that everybody doesn't love driving at 8 o'clock at night. So I figured this might have a better chance of attendance this year. We'll see whether the rabbis are correct or not. Otherwise, there will be a lot of information about the holidays coming out this week. So please pay attention to your emails and e-blasts for all that information. Otherwise, if we're not going to see you, I wish you a Shana Tova Mitzvah Shalom. But I hope that I will see you in one form or the other, either virtual or in person. And with that, we are going to offer a final song for this morning, and then Kiddush. And I think we should have some chalot left over for anybody who wants a challah and some ragul left to go. We've got it. And I just realized, though, the one thing I forgot to bring down was my Kiddush.
Well, I can stall. I have something to say.
Excellent. Kevin is going to talk for a second.
So, especially for anyone who wasn't here last night, on Wednesday, September, I believe it's 7th at 10:30 a.m. at HUC, I will be giving a practicum, which is every student has per year has like a performance that they give. And mine is specifically it's Rosh Hashanah Musaf Day 2, which is going to be specifically really focused on Unatane Tokef. So I'm doing Avot Geburot and then really zeroing in on Unatane Tokef and speaking about the text, kind of connecting to I think the talk that was on Thursday, kind of with the nature elements. So I'm going to really bring out certain parts of the text in an iyun at the very beginning that really ties together Gevurot with a lot of the text in Unatane Tokef. I'm going to really bring out all the natural imagery and kind of speak to really broadening our understanding of how we see the text and not just seeing it as something that we need to do and this is something that happens to us, but also as something that pertains to the natural world. And so I'm going to be expanding that and then giving about a 25-minute performance and really just modeling of a Rosh Hashanah service that I'm hoping to also be able to bring a little bit of here for our Rosh Hashanah service. So again, that's going to be, if you're in New York City, that'll be at West 4th at HUC in the chapel at 10:30 on Wednesday, September 7th. but there will also be a link. It's going to be live stream, so you can just kind of tune in from wherever you are, and that link will hopefully be sent out with the next email. So yeah, come if you can, but if not, no worries. I can also send out the recording afterwards. Thank you, thank you.
You want to start our donor lounge if you could?
Sure,
Pick any melody you want.
great. Do you have a page number for that one? Let's see, I should know this by heart, honestly. 625.
625.
Yep, right there. Let's go. Adon olam asher malach v'terem kol yitzir nivra v'nasa b'chetzo kol azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kiflot hakol levado imloch nora ve'hu hayha ve'hu hove ve'hu yihye v'tzipara ve'hu echad ve'en sheni ve'hamshir lo le'achbira ve'li reshit ve'li tachrit ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamisra ve'hu eli ve'chai go'adim ve'tzur chemli ve'etz hara ve'hu nisi u'manosli ve'nachotzi ve'yom ekra ve'yado hafid ruchi ve'tishan ve'ha'ira ve'imruchi geviati Adonai li ve'lo yira.
Very
And the
good.
high note.
Very good. Okay, let me just switch back to 604. We'll rise for Kiddush. And on top of page 604. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'ritolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'ritolam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'ritolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'ritolam. Ubayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam b'ritolam. Al-ken berachman yom ha-Shabbat vayikadshehu savri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Chaim, and the return of one of our great traditions by Howard. I didn't even realize we still had a bottle of Schlivitz. This is in honor of Larry Ward. That's exactly. That is it. All right. Well,
A little Schlivitz, what are you gonna?
I'll take some. A good Shabbos to all of our friends watching at home. There's no virtual Schlivovitz yet, but we'll work on what we can.
So you
All
want a
right,
little
take care.
wine
We'll
or
see everybody Torah study at 12 o'clock. Be prompt.
glass?